Hey there, Smoke Master D coming at you again with another episode of Barbecue Buyer's Guide. And this time we're doing custom gravity fed smokers. Now, my previous episode was box store gravity fed smokers. So I am going to have a link for that up at the top of the screen. So if you wanted to jump in on that, please do. Now, here I have some chapter times for you. If you want to navigate around this guide, these chapter times will be useful for that. Please also, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We're always trying to put out barbecue content that will be stimulating to your mind, but also helping your wallet too. And I just like thinking about smokers, how they work, and thank y'all. All right, and now we're going to talk some maps. So we're going to start with Humphrey's Barbecue Smokers and Accessories, and they are up in lower part of Maine. So if you're in the Northeast, that could be a really good option for you. And just so you know, we always talk about maps because shipping plays an important part of the cost of what you're going to pay for a smoker. So if you can do someplace closer to you, that can be a savings. You have to weigh in all the factors, but I just like people to know where these people are so that that can also be something that helps them make the best decision. We've got Big D's over there in Michigan. D&K Smokers is going to be in Indiana. We have Rockin W Smokers out there in Texas. Now, I also hear that Rockin W Smokers has a shop in Fairbanks, Alaska. So if you're in Alaska, maybe you would want to look up Rockin W Smokers as well. I hear they split, the owner splits his time between those two places. So, if you're in Alaska, maybe that's the way to go too. And as you see, there are several in Georgia, so we're going to do that on the next slide. One note about T&K Smokers, though, they will not be featured in this show beyond this point. I reached out to them and they replied that they are not taking new orders. They didn't have any prices for me to work with. So, the steel prices being what they have been, decided not to look into them for those reasons. If you're watching this show sometime down the line and they are taking orders again, definitely look into them and let's go on. And now here we have several makers in the Georgia area. I believe Stump Smokers down there near Warner Robins and Macon may have kicked this whole thing off and made the gravity feed smoker the popular one that it is today. Assassin Smokers is right there, almost in the same town, I think. Myron Mixon Smokers is a little further south, south of Perry there. They're all sort of in southern Georgia. If you come up here to northern Georgia, in actually in Forsyth County, in Cumming, where I grew up, Deep South Smokers is right there. You may remember from the Caster Offset episode. I'll throw a link up for that. But Workhorse Pits and Primitive Pits are also right there as well. A stone throw from Deep South Smokers. Then if you go sort of to the northwest Atlanta area, you also are going to have Southern Q Smokers and trailers. All right, and now the gravity feed smoker basics. So we did a little bit of this in the box store one. There are a few differences in the way that these work from the box store ones being master built and the char griller. There's not a whole lot of difference, but a little bit. You see that there's an air valve there, and that air valve is going to be a ball valve. Most of the time, you can put a fan on that air intake, and Barbecue Guru, Pitmaster IQ. There's a dozen names, literally, of fans that you can use to control your barbecue smoker with that will work with these gravity feed smokers. Now, the air goes in, and there is a coal pan The fire is up there at the charcoal grate. So the charcoal's coming down the chute. The fire is on the bottom of the fuel there. It's going up. The charcoal chute itself is going to be fairly warm and hot. That's why there's going to be quite a bit of insulation around the chute itself. But those ashes and coals are going to come through that grate and fall into a pan below. And a lot of people will have their wood there, and that's going to produce some of the smoke. So, you know, there's a certain extent to which these things are set and forget, especially if you have that fan that you put on it. But and you can put wood in the chute itself and sort of layer it in. But if you're going to be adding wood to the ash pan there, that could be something that does require you to go in and do something every hour or however often you want to do it. But as the air goes in, there's going to be a channel for the heat and smoke to go into the chamber. And right there, I have a heat plate or diffuser mechanism. So that area is actually going to be one of the places that changes most between these different models that we're going to see here in a second. The way that they diffuse the heat and allow it to come into the chamber. It's basically the throat of the smoker, just like you have in the offset smokers. In a way, a gravity feed smoker is an offset smoker because the fire is offset from the chamber there. So that heat's going to be going in though. The plate or diffuser mechanism is going to hopefully spread that heat out, and it's going to go up. I have the smokestack there on the side. It's even more likely sometimes that it's going to be right there on the top of the smoker. Insulation all the way around the chamber and the door. Lots of insulation in these gravity feed smokers. They are trying to keep the heat in. The oxygen, is very much something that is controlled in this smoker environment, so that you have the right amount of air to the coals and the right heat in the smoker body itself, and then it exits the stack. And those are the basics of how these gravity feed smokers work. All right, so some of the pros and the cons. So the very first one is that these are very little work to operate. Like I said before, the whole set and forget mentality, especially if you have that fan, it's going to do all of the sort of changes at the minute level to keep your temperature steady. On the other hand, there is a danger of bridging with charcoal. Almost all of these have, I believe, some design features to try to combat this. So, as we talk about these smokers, if I talk about the chute in any way, the charcoal chute, know that those features are to combat this. But when the bridging happens, just however the charcoal settles, it's going to settle in such a way that it's going to create a structure that doesn't allow it to continue falling down. And then eventually, if it's not handled, your fire is going to go out, which could could ruin your cook if you're not paying attention to it at all. So, the pro being set and forget, the con being it's not entirely set and forget, right? And that also, like I said before, the wood chunk thing as well, if you want to be sort of involved with that every hour or so. But the danger of bridging, it's not a huge thing. I think it's more lump. There's more danger with the lump just because of its different shapes. And, briquettes are very, uniform shape. They're going to flow down a little bit better, I think. But as you're going to see as we go along, there's a lot of things that these builders are doing to combat that. Bridging can be a pellet hopper issue as well, so it's not unique to gravity fed smokers, but it does show up there occasionally, and it is a con. Number two, wood chunks can be added for extra flavor, but for a con, there's a danger of dirty smoke with wood chunks. You do want to sort of dial that in and not do too many. So one thing to watch out for there. There's a great tasting product. Jeremy Yoder, he was trying out the gravity feed for Old Country Barbecue, and he said that it was as close to an offset that he thought he could get. Is that still his opinion? I don't know, but I do know that these things are used a whole lot in barbecue competitions, and they do very well that way. Another con is they're expensive, and again, if you want to go check out the box store ones that we have in the other episode, but yeah, these prices here are some of the highest that we've looked at it on this show. So, the if you don't have the money for these ones, the box store ones could be a way that you would want to go first. But yes, they are expensive. Number four, they're economical for space due to their square shape, so you can fit this somewhere usually pretty easy. There's smaller models that you can get if space is really an issue for you. And the last con, there's a danger of overheating if the chute is left open. You know, if you do leave the chute open, you could seriously damage your smoker. You have to just be very conscious of always closing that door. There are some people who have ruined these things by leaving that open. There's not another smoker that I know of. Well, I suppose there it could happen with the drum smoker as well. You know, I suppose. Um, but yeah, not so many smokers that you can so easily damage or destroy like that. All right, now we're going to talk about measuring insulation. I wish that this was a more integral part of this show, and I'll explain that in a second. But K and R are both values for materials' ability to resist heat flow. Now, R value changes, but the K value is set to be to a general level. It's usually to 1 inch thickness. So, it K is kind of locked in for a material, but R, if you add more material, you can raise it. So you want a low K value and you want a high R value, and that's going to be really good insulation. Now, why am I not going to talk about this any further? I tried to talk to these pit makers about telling me, the R value of their smoker, but they really weren't interested in talking about that or disclosing it. So basically, what I've decided is, you're going to have to trust that these smokers are going to keep the heat in, and there's really no way without doing laboratory sort of testing to figure out which ones hold in heat the best. They're all insulated. They're all going to hold in heat fairly well. All of them are touting, the kind of insulation that they have. I put I put it on some of the slides. I think Myron Mixon, they have military grade. Some of them have proprietary blends. For the most part, all of this insulation is coming from volcanic material that has been processed in some way to create air pockets, and not gonna melt. It's very good because it's volcanic rock salt, rock wool. It's that kind of stuff. So for the most part, all these are gonna do well, and we're not gonna really look at their heat retention any further than just right now. But I wanted you to know that that was a part of this. All right, and another few beginning notes. I am only going to be covering smokers less than $5,000 at base price. That leaves out quite a few smokers, but all of these companies have smaller smokers and larger ones. You can go higher, just so you know. Number two, some of the numbers, especially in the chart section, may be approximations. I tried my best. I always try my best to get the most accurate numbers I can, but especially things like weight, they'll ballpark it when they tell me. They'll know about how much the components weigh. So it's just one thing to take in mind. And lastly, there is an assumption that the websites are correct and up to date. A few of them I've come across. Rockin W Smokers was one of them. I think Big D as well. That they haven't changed their prices since all of the steel price changes this year. So I hopefully all these prices are correct. Some of them, like I said, have changed to be correct that are different from the website. But this volatile marketplace that we're in right now means that you may get to calling these people and notice a difference. And hopefully in a few years that'll be a downward trend because steel, the very high demand for it is going to one day make the supply rise to a point that prices go down. But we're not there yet, but we will be. And we're starting off with Southern Q Smokers and Trailers. And they have their Limo and Limo Junior. Limo Junior has that very attractive $2,400 price, and the Limo is $4,500. I forgot to mention that these are all going to be ordered by the lowest price smoker, and the Limo Junior is the lowest price smoker in all the ones we're going to talk about. So let's see a little bit about their features. Okay, and we see we've got a lot of nice features on the Southern Q Smokers. Starting off with that rain shield topper. I don't think we see that on really any of the other ones I can remember right now. Yeah, it keeps the rain out of your smokestack. Got that probe port. Slam latch doors are standard, so they're not going to be standard on all of them. Charcoal grate there on the bottom and the ashtray as well. Also pretty standard features, but they look nice there. Now, let's take a look at the racks. So it comes with 3 racks for both the Limo and Limo Junior. If we look at the charcoal chute, the Limo Junior only has a square one, and I don't actually know if it has any tapering. So, I would ask about that if I were going to buy one of these. It's maybe the only one, the Limo Junior, that doesn't have any special features that I noticed to keep bridging from happening. But the regular Limo has this hexagonal chute, right? So that's really going to be good to keep the bridging from happening. We've got a grease pan slots there. It looks like it can just take, a regular pan that you'd get that's disposable from, the store that you would buy. Heat diffuser plate down there. You see it has the holes getting larger as it goes away. So very much like some of these heat management plates that we're seeing on offset smokers. So that's an interesting thing there. And I imagine it would work fairly well for dispersing the heat left to right across the chamber. All right, not a lot in the upgrade category. Now, I say that, and you could call Southern Q Smokers, and they probably have a lot more that they could offer, but I didn't really get into that or ask them about it. So I'm just going to give you this. The regular caster looks like that. Upgraded casters for 225. They're going to be wider and larger. It's going to make it a lot easier to move this thing around. Now, for extra racks, Limo Junior is 80 and the Limo is 100. And I suppose that means they would add the slides in as well. And like I said, you can call them up, I'm sure, and get some more upgrades. But these were the basic ones that they had, listed. So they're what I put on here. And now we've got Stump Smokers. And like I said, I do believe they were maybe the earliest player in this game. Now that the baby is $2,675. So also on the cheaper end, the baby XL 3,875. We're going to take a look. Being sort of at the front end, a lot of stuff here is going to be sort of kind of the standards, that charcoal grate there, the ash pan. Now, regular style latches. We have a drippings catch pan there. It looks like it's stainless steel, 4-inch wheel casters, so a little bit on the small end. Now we go over, we see it's kind of a square top there for the door for the chute and a drip shield. I do believe there's a smaller plate under that drip shield that's going to take the brunt of the heat as it comes in. And then the drip shield is probably also going to play a part in dispersing the heat as the hot air and smoke travels around that shield. And the drippings are going to fall down and they're going to roll down into the catch pan below. So it looks like that sort of system has been thought out. It's really interesting that they cut these doors in such a way that they have that same slant. Now, some of you who are familiar with pellet smokers know that the drip shield on occasion can double as heat shield and diffuser. So it's interesting, and I think that this drip shield may be somewhat a dual purpose like that. Are you going to get any vapors of the drippings, or any of them going to be vaporized? And is that going to add to the flavor from a stump smoker? That's an interesting question. If you own a stump smoker and throw that down in the comments for us. So, all right, and some upgrades here. If you want the slam latch, it's 150. Now you're going to notice that a lot of these other companies are going to have slam latches standard. So, and apparently they make a difference when, especially in these competitions when time is of the essence. But, they make it really easy just to close that door back when you have, the barbecue in your hands. So they're definitely convenient that way. Are they absolutely necessary? Probably not, especially since those toggle latches, you have to do those too eventually, even if you have to go throw something, on a table somewhere. Now, aluminum handles, 150. And we have the classic wheel package, so it looks like it's going to move around a whole lot easier than with those small 4-inch casters. So 375 for that upgrade. On the bottom here, we've got paint for 200 for the baby, 250 for the XL. Yeah, so a weather resistant cover for the baby or the baby XL, and 200 or 250. I haven't seen a whole lot of covers mentioned, so I suppose that a lot of people are wheeling these things into their garages. So, but yeah, this is actually the only cover I remember right now. So, not a whole lot of covering for these smokers. All right, and now we're going on to Assassin Smokers and Grills. They've been at it quite a while too, and maybe their proximity to Stump Smokers is how that happened. So we have the 17, the 24, the 28, and the 32. 17 starts at 3,000, 3,600 for the 24, 4,200 for the 28, and 4,800 for the 32. So all of their gravity feed smokers under that 5,000 limit that we put. And some interesting features here. So one thing that I thought was interesting is that you decide where you want the charcoal chute. You see on this one, it's on the right-hand side. You can switch it around to the left-hand side. You could put it on the back if you wanted to. And when we look at the heat deflector over here, you're going to kind of understand how their design features sort of made that possible. So you see on the bottom right-hand side, you have the heat coming in from that channel. There's a slight deflector plate down, and then there's a higher plate that's going to hold water in that square area. So imagine you're going to fill that with water. The heat's going to come up around that plate. You're going to notice that there's more plates up there kind of angling it down again towards the water pan, and then it's going to flow up. A water pan is a great thing for diffusing heat through a chamber, just because that moisture, is going to spread it out. So sort of an intricate design, but apparently, they must know what they're doing to make that work. And yeah, it looks like that's going to do fairly well. Down here on the right, I have a small diagram of a tapered charcoal chute. So again with the bridging, but basically, one of those walls is going to go down and open up the further down you go, and that is going to make it so that the whole bridging thing really can't happen, hopefully, as well as it opens up further down. Going back over to the main picture, the handle there, slam latch is standard, tapered chute we talked about. The insulation is compressed mineral wool, stainless steel on the door plate up there, which I don't believe we saw on the Stump Smoker. So a lot of people put aluminum foil on that plate as well to keep the soot from getting to it and try to keep it clean. So maybe that stainless steel is going to help too. All right, and a rundown of some of the upgrades that you can get. Additional cook racks, 50 each. Stainless cook racks, 125 each. Custom paint, 275. Stainless toggle latches, $80 for a set of 4. Stainless D-rings, 20 for a set of 4. Now, the Pit IQ part here is interesting. It's a $200 value. It comes with the unit. This is the only one where they're going to give you the fan with it. So when you go look at those prices, think $200 off, 200 extra dollars extra value there when you're comparing. Now, I didn't put that in the charts or anything, but just keep it in mind. Now, here's a really strange thing. If you want the Pit IQ 130, you have to pay 275. Okay? So they would give you the Pit IQ 120 for free, but it's an extra 275 for the IQ 130. So it seemed a little strange to me because that's about what the IQ 30 costs. So, if I were you, if I wanted this Pit IQ 130, it'd probably be worth your while to buy the 130 separately, get the 120, and then just try to sell it after the fact to recoup some of the cost of the 130. So that's my 2 cents on that for how to make that work for you. All right, and now we're talking Deep South smokers. We've got the Patio and the RGC. Now, the Patio is $3,195, and the RGC is $3,895. Now, interesting thing about these two smokers is that they are exactly the same size. Okay, so that $700 price difference there is entirely, almost entirely, the door placement. Okay, and it does look like there's a little bit of difference in the stack as well. So this Patio one is apparently made to be super economical, and its design and its footprint in every regard, it appears. But the RGC is a little bit better, having that area there for holding your electronics, for the probe ports. You can put, if you got a fan going, you can keep the controller there in that little area. That's certainly nice, but yeah, is having a larger door worth it? And that's a question that you're going to have to ask if you go with one of these Deep South smokers. All right, so the RGC has that side smokestack. On the top left, you're going to see the way that they distribute their heat. They have a manifold with holes that get larger as it goes down there. I already talked about the space for the controller. Rock solid insulation, 8-inch casters. So the casters on these ones, you have those tires on the back and the 8-inch casters up front. They actually look really good there. You've got what appears to be a grease drainage on the very bottom of the smoker. So you're gonna have that ball valve there as well to release the grease that comes into the chamber. Pretty standard all around for the rest of what we have there. Now, some upgrades on the bottom left, additional standard racks, $50, round bar racks, 80. Still, if you want an upgraded seal, it's going to be 60, and stainless push bar is 45. All right, and now we're talking Humphrey's smokers. They are cabinet smoker makers, first and foremost, who have branched into gravity smokers. So there's a slight difference between a cabinet smoker and a gravity smoker. And I haven't done a cabinet smoker episode yet. Maybe that's in the near future. But we're going to see that some of their design comes from there. Now, we have four different offerings here: the Mini Tank 1, Mini Tank 2, the regular Tank 1, and the regular Tank 2. And the prices there, they go up. So if you look at the right hand of the screen, you're going to have you're going to have Tank 1. And on the left hand, it's Tank 2. So Tank 1 is a little bit squatter, and Tank 2 is a little bit taller, right? The Tank 1 is 3,299, 3 racks, 6 locations. The Mini Tank 2 is 4,599, 3 racks, 9 locations. You're going to notice that the location numbers and racks are the same for the tank number, Tank 1 or Tank 2. So the regular Tank 1, 3,899, regular Tank 2, 4,999. So this regular Tank 2 is right below our $5,000 threshold. I made a little chart there on the bottom right to help you understand the differences between these two. So if it's mini, it is only 15 and a quarter inches wide, right? They are all 22.5 inches deep. Regular is 21 and a quarter inches wide, and the mini is 15 and a quarter inches wide. And the difference between Tank 1 and Tank 2 is how tall they are. Tank 1, like I said, is squatter. It's 18 inches tall in the chamber. So we're talking in the chamber here. And then Tank 2 in the chamber is going to be 25 inches tall, which makes it the taller one overall. So a little confusing, but hopefully that chart helps. All right, so only slam latches on these things, and I believe some of them have two. We've got the regular casters down there. We've got a picture of the inside of what one of these things looks like. You're going to see up top that you have a circular charcoal chute, again, to help with that bridging. Hopefully the circular nature is going to keep it from anything catching there. Now the racks, and I think that one maybe it's a mini, maybe not. It looks like stainless steel interior on that middle picture. But on the right-hand side, you have a picture of something that's not a gravity feed smoker at all, right? So this is one of their cabinet smokers. You see the firebox down there at the bottom. Now, the reason that I have this picture here is to talk about the heat distribution method that they use, which is unlike any that anybody else uses, okay? They have what they call reverse flow. So, in a certain sense, it is reverse flow because it relies, when you think reverse, you're usually thinking horizontally, right? So, in this reverse flow, it's up and then back down again, which is reverse, but it's not how I usually think about reverse. So, it was a little hard for me to wrap my head around. But as you see, according to the picture that they have, that the heat is actually going up two chambers on the sides of the smoker, right? And then it's going to hit the top there, and it's going to come around and back down, hit the water pan, and come up to the top. Does it have the most even heat distribution of any of the gravity feed smokers we've talked about? I don't know. Again, you'd have to do laboratory tests to figure those things out. As far as I know, only the Myron Mixon Smokers have been assessed by AmazingRibs.com, and they're the people who do most of the scientific kind of testing on any smokers. And the real unfortunate thing is that they can only do so many smokers. They only have access to so many smokers, and I think Myron Mixon were at the time that I looked the only gravity fed smokers that they'd done very much with at all. No empirical data that I have on hand to show that this is better, but it is possibly better than the others for heat distribution. So maybe it looks cool. Now, the one thing that I kind of pause at is all that space there at the bottom of the smoker. If you look in the middle, the green one, uh, part of me wonders, is it still necessary with this sidewall heat distribution model? Could they make that bottom part smaller? I don't know. You know, it kind of looks like it's still set to have a firebox down there. So just a thought, but I have to say their method of reverse flow is very intriguing. It's very intriguing. Could it create more smoke velocity? Another question, how fast does the smoke and heat uh, move coming out of that chamber, at the top and then going back down? Oh, and that water pan is probably going to help as well. So yeah, it's very interesting. Another angle is the heat distribution top to bottom better as well because of that. So you're probably going to find it, hotter at different levels in some of these other gravity fed smokers. Uh, but is that going to be different here with this system? So all around, the Humphreys is very intriguing for that reason. All right, and we've got some upgrades here. Stainless grab bar, $75. The mini tank comes with stainless racks, and maybe that's just because of its size and what they have on hand. But if you want the regular tank 1 and 2 to have those stainless racks, it's going to be $395 to upgrade. The 8-inch casters, and it looks like they're dual casters, which are very nice. $374 upgrade. If you want that stainless drop down counter on the side, it's $195. So stainless steel cook chamber or door. So these prices are actually the same for both of those. So if you wanted a complete stainless interior for the Mini one, it's 325. But then if you wanted a stainless door as well, it'd be another 325, right? So 650 in all. And the prices you see go up as you get larger, 375, 395, and 425 for the same thing. So extra steel racks, 139.95, and then extra stainless ones, 199.95. Now, they gave me this quote through the end of January, so these prices, steel prices change. By the time that you talk to the people at Humphreys, it may be different, but those are the prices for right now. All right, now we've got the Rockin W Smokers. It's 20-inch. So if you look at their website, currently it says 18-inch, but I talked to the owner of Rockin W Smokers, really nice guy. He said that it's actually a 20-inch now and it's 3,800. Okay. That side stack has the damper, so that's kind of fun. Not all of them have a damper feature up there. Shielded electronics area. So it looks like he puts like a plastic kind of shield over that shelf area that I believe you can, put your probes in there. So very nice. Maybe the nicest area like that in all of these. Now, if we look at the inside there, we have the racks, the bottom. That's actually a tuning plate down there. I imagine that the heat is going to hit right there, and you probably would want to put, a water pan maybe on that plate. So the water pan would probably absorb some of that heat too, and give you that water vapor throughout your chamber that's going to help even the temps as well. So it's maybe the strangest kind of heat management system that I think we've seen, just maybe because it's rather basic, but I'm sure it works well enough for what it needs to do. If we go over here, we see a very standard kind of ashtray and opening there for the firebox. And lastly, there is a wheel upgrade that you can get that's 325. A very nice kind of wagon style wheels. Very easy, it looks like, to just pull around your yard. So, it's a very attractive upgrade there. All right, here we are with Big D's Metalworks. We have the small gravity fed smoker for $3,900. All right, so you're gonna notice that the picture that I have is one that's pretty tricked out. It was one of the more recent photos though, so I decided to go with it. You may find that there's slightly different design that you get if you get it stripped down. That slam latch is going to be 125. You could have a toggle latch there. We've seen plenty of those through this video. The fold down shelf is $150 extra, and a stainless drip edge there for $75. Okay, so why do you need that? So when you're opening that door, a lot of heat's going to come out, and if you have your shelf up there, you're not going to want it all to hit whatever's up there. I think that is the main reason for that. If you don't have a shelf, it's not really necessary. So the shelf and the drip edge are probably something that you want to think about together. So overall, it's going to be 225 for the combo. Really, I don't think that I would get the shelf, at least in that placement, without the drip edge. So just something to consider. Now, some interesting things on this Big D smoker. Now, like I said, this was a very recent picture. That air intake being on the front side instead of the door is something that this is the only place I've ever seen that. And in Big D's pictures, this is maybe the only instance as well. So a lot of the older smokers from Big D's have it like everybody else, the air intake in the door for the firebox and ash pan. So there's no real reason why it has to be that way, however. So he does make his fireboxes out of half-inch steel now, and that is one of the features that really sets Big D's apart, is the use of that half-inch plate for the firebox and the charcoal grate. You see the grate there at the bottom. Another interesting thing, he has the tapered chute. Plenty of them do, but we get a building view of the tapered chute there. You see how it tapers to one side. There's the angle, one side straight, one side's tapered. Now, heat distribution, this one in the top right is more recent. I can't really tell what's going on in there. So the bottom right is a little bit older, but this one appears to have a chute or manifold or whatever you want that's kind of going into the center of the chamber and shooting the heat kind of across to that back wall and keeping it from going straight up on the right hand side of the smoker. Hopefully that is going to create enough heat distribution for it. that you're going to have better heat distribution throughout this cooker. But yeah, lastly, extra cook racks, $65 each. And I think that's about it for Big D's. I think they're the only people in their geographical region there of the Midwest. So, but a really good looking smoker it is. All right, and now we've got the Myron Mixon. So the G9 is $4,499. There's a couple bigger sizes, but this one is obviously the only one under our $5,000 threshold. Let's take a look. All right, and here we are. We have, a really good looking unit here. They build the body of the smoker and the charcoal chute separately, so it has a really good profile when you look at it all together. Now, that military grade insulation we've talked about a little bit before. One thing we didn't mention, though, is that it is one piece. So a lot of these other builders, they'll, put in several pieces. You get these insulation bats that you can put a lot in there and sort of line the chamber with. How important is it to be one piece? There's going to be, when you have multiple pieces, that air transfer through could lead to less insulative property for the chamber. Again, I can't do laboratory experiments to see exactly what the R and K ratings are on all these things. I imagine that Myron Mixon, though, has a very good one. So, there's that. They very much believe in the water pans at Myron Mixon to keep that chamber moist. So they have one built in. It's got its own little slot. If you take a look down at the bottom right photo, you're going to notice the water pan there again, but also the heat duct or manifold kind of has this elbow sort of feature, and it is actually shooting heat up onto a plate. You don't see the plate, it's right underneath that water pan. It doesn't go the full width of the whole chamber. So, it hits the plate, the heat is coming up around the plate and then hitting the water pan second, which is going to create that water vapor when the water heats up. So altogether, it's probably going to do a pretty good job of distributing the heat throughout the chamber that way. Maybe not quite like Humphrey's reverse flow, but I think it's going to do pretty well. One feature is the double insulation on the firebox door. You see those two different rings of gasket there, so it's going to keep that firebox really well sealed. Now, this thing comes with 4 racks, but it has slots for many more. So, really great in kind of, deciding how much space you need and for each thing that you're cooking. The racks are nickel chrome plated. They won't be corroding on you anytime soon, so they're going to be really high quality that way. The slam latch is going to be standard. They have what they call flat free tires. I believe there's some sort of styrofoam inside of them that keeps them so that they don't go flat. Very nice tall ones. So it's going to be easy to wheel this thing around. Got a probe port there that you can see on the right hand side. This one also uses that circular charcoal chute. Again, for the bridging, you can see that at the top right. There are a lot of great features on this Myron Mixon smoker. When we get to the charts, we're going to notice that it's going to be coming in last a lot of the time. A lot of the price for this one is in the engineering and all these features that you won't find on other gravity smokers. And you have to decide, are these extra sort of features, are they worth the extra money to me, right? So you have to decide, but it looks like a really well put together, really well thought out smoker. And now we are at charts. All right, and so I'm breaking up these charts into two for most of the time. Decided to throw the old country barbecue pits gravity fed in here just so that you can see it. It's cheaper, just in case you wanted to go that route, I put it in here as well. So it's first there at 13.99, but then the Southern Q Limo Junior 2400, Stump Baby 2675, Assassin 17 3000, the Deep South Patio 3195, the Mini Tank 1 3299, Assassin 24 3600, the Rockin W 20-inch 3800, the Baby XL at 3875. We keep going. Deep South RGC at 3895, the regular Tank 1 3899, the Big D Small 4200, Assassin 28 4200 as well, the Myron Mixon G9 4499, the Limo from Southern Q 4500, Mini Tank 2 4599, Assassin 32 at 4800, and the regular Tank 2 at 4999. Then we're doing these standard square inches. Now, you may have noticed that you can purchase extra racks for all these smokers actually, but this is just going off of what comes standard, right? Later on we're going to do volume of the cooking area, so that may be a little bit more useful, but for now, we do square inches. So here we go. The baby from Stump Smokers is going to be the smallest with 918, Mini Tank 1 957, as well as the Mini Tank 2. Okay, so they're only going to have the same size racks. Of course, the Mini Tank 2 is going to have a larger volume, so more space between them. The Old Country Barbecue Pit at 1082, the Deep South Patio at 1163.25. Deep South GC is again going to have the same amount. There is the patio. Assassin 17 1173, the regular tank 113.20, the regular tank 2 as well. Again, it's the volume there, space between racks for Humphreys. Then we're going to have the Myron Mixon G9 at 1334, the Limo Junior at 1368, which being the cheapest is going to do very well for its dollar per square inch here in a second. The Big D Small 1584, Baby XL 1596, Rockin W 20 is a 2070, Assassin 24 2209, Assassin 28 2475, Assassin 32 2728, and then the full limo is 2736. All right, and dollar per standard inches squared. What we want to do here is see how much space they give you just regularly with the price, and we got that Old Country Barbecue Pits at 129. They are produced in Mexico, right? That price sort of reflects that. But I just wanted to show you where that was. The Assassin 24 $1.63. The Limo is going to be $1.64. Assassin 28 $1.70. The Limo Junior $1.75. Assassin 32 $1.76. Rockin W20 $1.84. Baby XL 243. Assassin 17 at 256. Really seems like just from this that jumping up to the 24 could be worthwhile. Okay, we got the Big D Small at 265, Deep South Patio 275, Stump Baby at 291, the Humphreys regular tank 1 295, the Deep South RGC 335, Myron Mixon G9 373, the Mini Tank 1 is 345, regular tank 2 379, and the Mini Tank 2 at the highest with 481. All right, we've got that Limo Junior at 290, then the Old Country Barbecue Pits at 330, the Stump Baby at 375, Assassin 17 375 as well, Assassin 24 475, Deep South Patio 525, Myron Mixon G9 560, Deep South RGC at 600. So there must be some difference for that 75 pounds They have that same size cook chamber, but other things going on there as well. The Baby XL at 600 also. We've got the Rockin W 20-inch there at 600. The Mini Tank 1, 625. The Limo 650. Assassin 28 at 675. Mini Tank 2, 700. Big D Small 750, as well as the regular Tank 1. The regular Tank 2 at 825. And the Assassin 32 at 875 is the heaviest of the bunch. And dollar per pound, of course, the Old Country Barbecue Pits is going to take that with 424. The regular Tank 1 is going to be 520. Mini Tank 1, 528. The Assassin 32 at 549. The Big D Small at 560. Regular Tank 2 at 606. The Patio from Deep South 609. Assassin 28, 622. Rockin W 20 at 633. The Baby XL at 646. Deep South RGC 649. Mini Tank 2 at 657. The Limo 692. The Stump Baby at 713. Assassin 24 at 758. The Assassin 17 at 8. And the G9 at 803. And lastly, the Limo Junior at 828. So for dollar per square inch, the Limo Junior did really well, but then on the dollar per pound, it is doing the worst. Average together the dollar per pound and the dollar per square inch. So let's take a look at this. We see the Old Country Barbecue Pits. This is, I think, the last slide I have it on. So 277 altogether. We go over the Assassin 32 and then the 28, the regular Tank 1. So they're going to show up on our value slide, but we're going to look at volume as well first too. That Rockin W 20-inch. So probably a pretty good value there. And the Big D Small right behind it. So remember proximity, we're going to talk about on my thoughts page. The Limo regular, then Mini Tank 1, and the Patio from Deep South after that. We've got the Baby XL, the Assassin 24, Deep South RGC, the regular Tank 2 from Humphreys, the Limo Junior, Stump Baby, Assassin 17, Mini Tank 2, and then the G9. All right, and here we have the height from the bottom rack to the top of the chamber. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I gathered this information. But I asked all of these builders specifically for that number, and they responded, and here they are. So you can take a look at these numbers really quickly. The approximate volume of cooking area in inches. So this number represents the number that I got for the height from the bottom rack to the top of the chamber multiplied by the square inches of one of their racks. Okay. So the lowest there is the Stump Baby, then the Mini Tank 1, the G9, then the Assassin 17. It seems like the G9 feels larger than maybe it is in the interior. According to my calculations, it has a smaller area in there than even the smallest from Assassin Smokers. So, it has a whole lot of extra slots for you to use that space wisely. But looking at these numbers, it's interesting to see what the actual volume is. We've got the regular Tank 1 there, Tank 2, the Mini Tank 2, I should say, the Baby XL, the Big D Small, the Limo Junior. The Limo Junior being the price that it is and to have that much space is pretty good. The Humphrey regular Tank 2, the Rockin W 20, the Patio and RGC from Deep South, pretty high up there. The Assassin 24, then 28, and 32. And the Limo itself has the most space overall for all the ones that we're talking about. All right, and then the dollar per approximate inch cubed. So yeah, that Limo is going to take it with 18 cents per cubic inch. Then the Limo Junior at 23, the Assassin 28 at 25, the Assassin 32 26, Patio 28, the Assassin 24 at 31, Rockin W at 34, the RGC from Deep South 35, Assassin 17 at 41, the Big D Small at 44, the Regular Tank 2 45, the Baby XL 49, Regular Tank 1 at 49 as well, the Mini Tank 1 at 57, Mini Tank 2 at 58, the Stump Baby at 58 as well. And then lastly, the G9 at 65 cents per cubic inch. All right. And now, for the weight per pound, or the dollar per pound and the dollar per cubic inch, I put them all on a 10-point scale between the lowest and highest. And then I averaged those together to give sort of what I think of as the ultimate value. Now, remember that these numbers are for weight, so kind of how much material is there. Really hard to figure out, from an insulation standpoint, how much the weight actually is equals value here. It's really hard to tell without those K and R values for the heat retention. Maybe some of the weight in the insulation is better than others. But these are the numbers that I have to go off of. So, you're going to have to take this for what it is. So we have the Assassin 32, the 28, the Patio, the Limo, Regular Tank 1, Big D Small, Rockin W 20, the Deep South RGC, Regular Tank 2, Mini Tank 1, Assassin 24, Baby XL, Limo Junior, Mini Tank 2, Assassin 17, and Stump Baby, and lastly the G9. All right, and now to my thoughts. Going off of the 10-point scale slide that I had on the last page, I awarded these best values for price ranges. So under 5,000, it's the Assassin 32 at 4,800. Under 4,500, it's the Assassin 28 at 4,200. Under 4,000, the Humphrey's Regular Tank 1 at 3,899. Under 3,500, it's going to be the Deep South Patio at 3,195. And then lastly, under 3,000, it's going to be the Southern Q Limo Junior. Now, one thing that I wanted to remind you of is that proximity does matter. So, if you're in Texas, you're definitely going to want to check out Rockin W Smokers. If you're in the Midwest, Big D is definitely who you should look into to see, how that shipping is going to play out. The Northeast is where their Humphreys are. So if that's where you live. Now, if you're in the South, close to Georgia, all those other options sort of open up to you. And if you are on the West Coast, the shipping is probably going to be roughly equal for all of them. So, it's the proximity becomes less important there. But the other thing is features. There are different features for all of these, and it's really hard to assign value to them. Is a circular shoot better than a hexagonal shoot? It's really hard to say. Is how something looks, is that important to you? Because that G9, it has a really good silhouette there. So, I can only help you so much in choosing which one of these you want. But I hope some of these numbers did give you some food for thought and that you can make a really great choice for buying your custom gravity smoker. And if you own any of these smokers, please do add your review to the comments. And you know what, y'all? Go out there, get your smoke on.